This week, how social media meets the Briflace. It's a rare story, well done. And take a look at this stunning Mercedes-Benz ad. We're going to go behind the scenes. Media and brand communication in 30 minutes. This is Mags on Media. All right, first up this week, just arriving on our desk is a list of the most watched local ads on YouTube in 2012. So, who had their ads viewed most via social media and YouTube? From Google South Africa, YouTube's parent company, here's Luke Mckend. Luke, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, is there a formula, in your opinion, for a great viral ad?
I think it's incredibly difficult to actually define the exact formula. But if you look at the ads who have made it to the top of the list, there are a couple of key features. One of which is probably humor, and that runs through all of the ads that we see. The other one, I think particularly with Nandos, is the ability to respond to things that are in the public's mind's eye right now. So that ability to respond to a political news story, for instance, has actually driven a huge number of views. Bearing in mind that a lot of these ads actually didn't make their way onto television at all and have become purely online phenomenon. The fact that they were banned and that controversy, I think, helped to promote them as well.
I suppose it's fair to say that a brand can take a lot more risk in this particular space as opposed to a traditional television, radio, print space.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think the other thing that helps is that you can be a lot quicker online than you can in traditional media. So whereas you have to plan your traditional media schedules well in advance, it's possible online to turn around a couple of those ads within days, and in some cases hours, which is what made the Suntime Nandos interaction, I think, quite so relevant and quite so valuable to them.
It's been brought to our attention that a certain fast food chain has crowed our commercial. Under normal circumstances, we'd be upset, but frankly, we're flattered. And we're prepared to overlook this indiscretion if the aforementioned fast food chain follows these instructions. By 4 p.m. Thursday, we'd like the following delivered to this address: 62 lemon and herb half chicken and chips with coleslaw, 12 kids' meals with chips and toys, 74 hot sticky toffee puddings, 74 assorted cold drinks, and a Portuguese salad. It's a small price to pay, all things considered, and we're sure you'll accept this challenge gracefully. Or are you chicken?
And there's that elongated time frame that they controlled the duration of the debate, which was good for both brands in that particular case.
I think so, and they were able to take it to a conclusion that was satisfactory for both as well. So the escalation of the banter actually resulted in something that I think everybody appreciated.
The whole notion of this viral video concept, is it growing worldwide? Or are we at a tipping point now where that's going to be the preponderance, perhaps, of advertising to the detriment of the more traditional platforms that we know?
Most of the video production people that I speak to, if they're asked to produce a viral video, I'm pretty sure their heart sinks, because it's almost impossible to guarantee upfront that a video will become quite that successful. But there are a couple of things that you can do to try and push it along. It's very unusual that a viral video doesn't at first have some sort of push. And that might mean actually producing a video with some ad spend and promoting it that way. Or it might mean, for instance, having very successful social media folks with huge numbers of followers actually promoting your video in order to get it to a critical mass before it starts to be shared amongst a huge number of people.
So you have to set out with a deliberate strategy in the hope that it will become viral, but the success rate isn't always guaranteed.
Yes, and I think you can try and do a number of different things. For instance, one of the other things that those ads do, they all tell a story in a very, very, very quick way. So you've got 30 seconds worth of narrative. And people really connect with narrative more so than just a couple of flashing ads. And I think that's something that's also something to bear in mind.
Let's go back to Nandos. Sustainability is difficult because Nandos has set the bar, and there's almost an expectation of the next viral video that it's going to produce. But every time, they've almost got to keep bettering each other, and that in itself, I would imagine, brings a whole different risk profile to what they're doing.
I think they've created a sense of anticipation around the brand.
Which can be dangerous.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it can be dangerous, but to a certain extent, because online works so fast, it actually works to their advantage. The moment they produce something, that anticipation means that people share it almost before, I think, they've decided whether it's any good or not. And that's how good Nandos have become at this, is that each ad has become a phenomenon in its own right. It also does help, of course, the controversy we mentioned earlier, and the fact that they were banned, didn't even make it onto television, meant the only way you could watch those ads was really online.
Do you think that there are some brands that lend themselves more to this discussion than others? I look, for instance, at a brand like Gumtree, which is also featured quite strongly, OLX, for instance, whose business is in that space anyway.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you'll find pure play online retailers, for instance, whose business is almost entirely online, doing very well. But I also like to think of a number of much larger brands. If you think of, for instance, VW and the famous set of Star Wars ads that they produced. Here's a big brand using video, using social media really intelligently to tell a story very, very quickly, grab the attention of the audience. It became one of the largest viral sort of ad successes, I think, of the previous year.
One of the other ads in this list is the Mentos Kiss commercial. That also is a brand that has seen its own custom-made channel coming to the fore. I think in this particular case, it's an overseas channel that they're using, but still brands adopting their own channels. In other words, becoming the broadcaster themselves. That's also a trend that I would imagine is starting to gain some traction.
Yeah, in fact, there's a huge trend, particularly on YouTube, to what I suppose we call the channelization of content, trying to make sure that particular genres of content are more discoverable by users. And brands are actually tapping into this opportunity themselves. We've actually seen some fantastic South African examples. I don't know if you, for instance, saw Savannah produce a campaign, I think it was called Dead Funny, using local comedians. That was a fabulous example of a channel they created with custom content that really appealed to their audience.
And that's the key phrase, appeal to their audience, because they're focusing on a loyal community anyway, because even if you do have your own channel, you're still dealing with a clutter factor.
And you have to understand the people that you're appealing to. I think that's incredibly important.
The other thing which is also quite interesting, this Tropika flash mob that was done, it was big, it was elaborate, but often the execution on the video is more successful than the real live execution.
And that is a classic example. If you've actually seen the video, you'll see how few people were actually walking past at the time that the video was created. And in fact, that was almost entirely created for video. So, a brand is actually trying to create an event that has a lifespan well beyond the event itself over perhaps many months that they can leverage online.
I just want to sneak in very quickly this other list that you've just put out, the year in South African search, your top searches in 2012. OLX, Whitney, Hurricane Sandy, topping the 2012 trending list. You also look at celebrities and also what our favorite searches are. Knitting and crocheting, would you believe, making a comeback.
Yes, very
how important is
surprising.
this list?
It tells us a little bit about, I suppose, who we are.
Yeah.
I have a couple of personal favorites. I always love the what is lists.
Yes.
And South Africans, what is love,
Yes.
how to kiss. I think there are a lot of things that are top of mind in South Africa that perhaps aren't top of mind elsewhere.
Very important stuff, that. Crocheting fascinates me. Who's doing this? Who's searching for crocheting? Luke Mckend, thank you very much from Google South Africa Country Manager. Always nice talking to you. Now, you could tell us what you think of the lists and perhaps what you were watching and downloading in 2012. That conversation is already underway on our Facebook page on this address. And coming up on the program, we'll talk to one of the brands that featured big in the online space.
Ow! That's too bad.